Ethan, seriously, what is that? Vanessa wrinkled her nose, peering at the tangled mess of wires and circuit boards sprawled across our coffee table. It looks like a robot vomited spare parts. It's evolving, I explained, carefully adjusting a precarious-looking connection. This, my dear, is the future of finance. AI-driven predictive analytics. Think of it as a financial oracle, only, less mystical and more algorithmic. Vanessa sighed, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on her phone. Ethan, you've been working on this oracle for like 3 years. When is it going to start paying the bills? Rent's due next week, and I'm not living on ramen noodles forever. It's an investment, Vanessa, I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. A long-term investment. This isn't just some app, it's a game changer. It's going to revolutionize the way we... Revolutionize? She scoffed. Ethan, you're chasing fantasies. All your friends are getting promotions, buying houses, taking vacations, and you're still tinkering with gadgets in our cramped apartment. But this is bigger than a promotion, Vanessa, I insisted, gesturing towards my chaotic workspace. This is about building something, creating something, impactful. Impactful doesn't pay for designer shoes, she retorted, scrolling through Instagram, her eyes fixated on a picture of someone's tropical vacation. Ethan, I need stability. I need security. I need a man who can actually provide. I can provide, I protested, though the words sounded hollow even to my own ears. Just give me time. This is going to be huge. Trust me. She sighed, a sound that conveyed both exasperation and pity. Ethan, you're so talented, so smart, but you're wasting it. You need to be realistic. Get a normal job, a stable job, with a future. A future in a cubicle, pushing papers and attending pointless meetings? I shuddered. No thanks. It's called being responsible, Ethan, she said, her voice sharp. It's called growing up. It's called being an adult. I am an adult, I protested, though I felt more like a frustrated teenager trying to explain his dreams to a disapproving parent. The air in the apartment was thick with unspoken tension. Vanessa stood by the door, a suitcase I hadn't seen before resting ominously by her side. Her perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, her expression as cold and hard as the marble countertop she leaned against. Vanessa, what's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my heart was pounding in my chest. I'm leaving, she stated bluntly, her eyes fixed on some distant point beyond my shoulder. Leaving? I echoed, the word catching in my throat. Leaving? Where? Leaving you, she clarified, her voice flat, emotionless. Leaving this life. But why? I stammered, my mind reeling. What did I do? It's not what you did, Ethan, she said, her voice laced with a condescending pity that was worse than anger. It's what you're not doing. You're stagnant. You're chasing pipe dreams while the world passes you by. But my startup? Your startup? She scoffed, a humorless laugh escaping her lips. Ethan, you've been working on that thing for years. It's going nowhere. It's a black hole for your time, your energy, your potential. But it's going to be huge, Vanessa, I pleaded, my voice rising in desperation. It's going to revolutionize. Revolutionize what, Ethan? She interrupted, her voice sharp. Your bank account? Our social life? My patience? But I'm so close, I insisted, my voice cracking. I just need a little more time, a little more. Time, she echoed, her eyes hardening. I've wasted enough time, Ethan. Years of waiting for you to grow up, to get a real job, to build a future. But we have a future, I protested, though the words lacked conviction even to my own ears. What kind of future, Ethan? She challenged, her voice rising in frustration. A future where we live in this cramped apartment, eating ramen noodles and dreaming of... What? Unicorns and rainbows? No, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Dreaming of success, of making a difference, of changing the world. Those are fantasies, Ethan, she said, her voice cold, final. Delusions, and I'm not going to waste my life on them anymore. She picked up her suitcase, her movements decisive, her expression resolute. There was no hesitation, no doubt, no turning back. "Goodbye, Ethan," she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. "I wish you luck, but I won't be here to see if you ever find it." And with that, she walked out the door, the click of the latch echoing in the sudden silence of the apartment, the finality of her departure hitting me like a punch to the gut. Vanessa was gone. Our relationship, our shared dreams, our future. It was all over. And as I stood there, amidst the tangled wires and the half-finished algorithms, the weight of her words crushing my already fragile spirit, I knew that this was it. The end. The final rejection. The motivation. Because even as the despair threatened to consume me, a spark of defiance flickered within me. I would prove her wrong. I would show her and the world that my dreams weren't delusions. They were my destiny. Okay, so maybe throwing myself into my work was an understatement. It was more like diving headfirst into a black hole of code, fueled by caffeine, spite, and the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't a complete idiot after all. Vanessa's parting words echoed in my mind, a constant refrain of doubt and dismissal. Delusional fantasies. Waste of time. Get a real job. Yeah, well, screw that. I'd show her. I'd show them all. The apartment, once a shared space, became my personal coding cave. Empty pizza boxes piled up like skyscrapers. Coffee mugs formed a geological stratum on every available surface, and the only sounds were the clicking of keys and the occasional frustrated groan, usually followed by a string of expletives that would make a sailor blush. Sleep? Who needs says sleep when you have revenge to fuel your ambitions? Food, ramen noodles, and microwave burritos were my culinary staples. Social life? Yeah, that was on hold. Ben tried to stage an intervention at one point, but I convinced him that human interaction was detrimental to my algorithmic optimization process. He bought it. Mostly. But it wasn't just about the coding. I needed to get this thing out there, to connect with investors, to network. Which, for a guy who preferred the company of algorithms to actual humans, was a challenge. Ethan, a venture capitalist said to me, his eyes glazing over as I tried to explain the intricacies of my AI-driven financial modeling. Your passion is admirable, but I'm not sure I understand the e-market applicability. Translation? Dude, you're boring me to tears, and I don't get it. Also, you need a haircut. He was right about the haircut. But I persevered. I refined my pitch, honed my presentation skills, mostly by practicing in front of the bathroom mirror, and even invested in a new suit, one that didn't smell like instant noodles. And slowly, gradually, miraculously, people started to listen. This is interesting, an angel investor said to me, her eyes actually sparkling with interest. Your AI, it's predicting market trends with remarkable accuracy. Remarkable accuracy? I echoed, trying to sound nonchalant. Oh, that's just the beta version. The final product will be, well, let's just say it'll make Warren Buffett look like an amateur. Okay, maybe I exaggerated a bit, but hey, a guy's gotta have some confidence, right? The initial investment was small, a drop in the ocean compared to what I needed. But it was a start. Validation. Proof that my delusional fantasies weren't so delusional after all. And so, fueled by this small victory, I doubled down. More coding, more networking, more sacrifices. My apartment was starting to resemble a biohazard zone, but hey, progress comes at a price, right? But it was worth it. Because with each line of code, with each successful pitch, with each ramen-fueled all-nighter, I was getting closer. Closer to proving Vanessa wrong. Closer to building my empire. Closer to becoming the kind of guy who could afford a decent haircut. And as I sat there, hunched over my glowing screen, the algorithms dancing before my eyes, I couldn't help but grin. This was it, the grind, the struggle, the foundation, and I was building it, brick by algorithmic brick, fueled by rejection, ambition, and, well, a whole lot of caffeine. The breakthrough came on a Thursday, or maybe it was Friday. Time had become a blurry, caffeine-fueled haze. I'd been wrestling with a particularly nasty algorithm, a stubborn little bugger that refused to cooperate. My AI, which I'd affectionately nicknamed Athena, because, you know, goddess of wisdom and all that, was almost there. Almost capable of predicting market trends with an accuracy that would make Wall Street gurus weep with envy. But not quite. "Come on, Athena," I muttered, my eyes bloodshot, my fingers flying across the keyboard. "Just work." I'd been tweaking the code for hours, trying different parameters, adjusting the algorithms, basically throwing everything I had at it. But nothing. Athena remained stubbornly unpredictable. Maybe I should just give up, I sighed, leaning back in my chair, my muscles aching, my brain fried. Maybe Vanessa was right. Maybe I'm just chasing... Suddenly, a line of code flashed on the screen. A single, seemingly insignificant change. I blinked, my tired eyes trying to focus. Had I done that? Or was it a hallucination brought on by sleep deprivation and an unhealthy diet of instant noodles? I ran the simulation again, half expecting the same frustrating results. But this time, something was different. The numbers danced across the screen, the graphs shifted and morphed, and then a prediction. A clear, concise, almost too accurate prediction of the next day's market trends. "What the?" I whispered, my heart starting to race. I ran the simulation again, tweaking the parameters slightly, expecting the prediction to change, to falter, to be wrong, but it wasn't. The prediction held, consistent, accurate, almost magical. "Athena," I breathed, my voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. You did it." I stared at the screen, the numbers blurring, my mind racing. This wasn't just a breakthrough. This was a game changer. This was the key to unlocking the financial matrix, the key to everything. I spent the next few hours running countless simulations, testing Athena's predictions against historical data, against current market trends, against everything I could think of. And every time, the results were the same. Stunning, accurate, almost unbelievable. "This is it," I whispered, a wave of adrenaline surging through me. "This is the breakthrough. This is..." I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling as I tried to call Ben. Ben, you gotta see this. It's working. Athena, she's predicting the future." "Dude, it's 3 a.m., Ben mumbled groggily. "Can't this wait until morning?" "No, Ben, it can't wait," I insisted, my voice cracking with excitement. "This is life-changing. I'm going to be rich." Okay, maybe rich wasn't the first thing that came to mind, but it was definitely on the list. Along with famous, successful, and, proving Vanessa wrong. But more than anything, it was about the potential to change the world, to disrupt the financial industry, to finally achieve the success I'd always dreamed of. And as I sat there, staring at the glowing screen, the algorithms dancing before my eyes, I knew that everything had changed. The grind, the sacrifices, the rejection. It had all led to this moment, the moment of discovery, the moment of transformation. And as the first rays of dawn crept through the window, illuminating the cluttered apartment, the empty pizza boxes, the coffee-stained mugs, I knew that my life was about to change forever. The dream was no longer a dream. It was reality. News of Athena spread like wildfire. What started as hushed whispers in the back rooms of venture capital firms quickly became front-page headlines. The AI that predicts the future, they called it. The algorithm that's rewriting the rules of finance. My phone was ringing off the hook investors, journalists, even a few suspiciously enthusiastic government officials. Mr. Ethan, that same venture capitalist from before stammered, his voice now dripping with a newfound respect, and maybe a hint of panic. We we're very impressed with your, product. We'd like to discuss, investment opportunities. This time, it wasn't a small investment. This was serious money. The kind of money that could launch a company, disrupt an industry, and, well, buy a whole lot of ramen noodles. I assembled a team, not just coders and engineers, but marketing gurus, financial analysts, and, well, a guy who knew how to make a decent pot of coffee. Priorities, people. We worked tirelessly, refining Athena, expanding its capabilities, and, well, trying to keep up with the ever-growing demand. The financial world was in a frenzy. Hedge funds were scrambling to adapt, banks were panicking, and Wall Street veterans were suddenly looking very nervous. Athena was changing the game, and they were struggling to keep up. "This is unprecedented," a financial analyst said on CNBC, his face pale, his voice trembling. "This AI, it's predicting market movements with an accuracy that, well, it's almost unfair." Unfair? Maybe. But hey, I wasn't complaining. My company, which I'd modestly named O'Connell Analytics, subtle I know, was the hottest thing in tech. We were signing deals with major corporations, partnering with investment firms, and, well, making a whole lot of money. The cramped apartment was replaced by a sleek office space overlooking the city. The ramen noodles were replaced by catered lunches, with actual vegetables and everything. And the coffee, well, let's just say I hired a barista who knew how to make a mean latte. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the recognition, the validation, the satisfaction of proving everyone wrong, especially Vanessa. I saw her face flash across the screen one day, a news segment about my company, about my genius, about my success. Her expression was a mixture of disbelief, envy, and regret. It was hard to tell, but I didn't care. I was too busy building my empire, changing the world, and, well, enjoying the fruits of my labor. The late nights, the sacrifices, the rejection. It had all been worth it. And as I sat in my new office, overlooking the bustling city, the financial news playing silently on the screen, I couldn't help but grin. Ethan, the guy who used to tinker with gadgets in his cramped apartment, the guy who got dumped for not having a real job, he was gone. In his place stood Ethan, the tech mogul, the financial visionary, the guy who was about to change everything. And he was just getting started. Okay, so explodes in value might be an understatement. It was more like a supernova. O'Connell Analytics went from a scrappy startup to a global powerhouse faster than you could say algorithmic arbitrage. Suddenly I wasn't just Ethan, the guy who built a cool AI. I was Ethan O'Connell, the tech mogul, the financial visionary, the billionaire. The numbers were insane. My net worth climbed with the speed and ferocity of a rocket launch. One day I was checking my bank account balance with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The next I was staring at a string of zeros that made my head spin. I may or may not have fainted. Don't judge. The perks were, well, let's just say they were pretty damn good. The cramped apartment was replaced by a sprawling penthouse overlooking the city, with a rooftop pool, naturally. The ramen noodles were replaced by Michelin star meals, with actual tablecloths and everything. And the wardrobe, well, let's just say I discovered the joys of bespoke tailoring and Italian leather shoes. But it wasn't just about the stuff. It was about the access, the influence, the power. Suddenly, I was the guy people wanted to talk to, the guy with the golden touch, the guy who could predict the future of the market with an accuracy that bordered on the supernatural. "Mr. O'Connell," a slick investment banker gushed, his hand clasped firmly around mine. "It's an honor, truly an honor. Your insights are revolutionary, game-changing. We'd be thrilled to partner with you on this, groundbreaking venture." Translation: Please, oh please, let me throw my money at you. I'll even carry your laptop bag if you want. I politely declined the laptop bag offer. The invitations piled up. Exclusive galas, industry conferences, even, wait for it, a TED Talk. Apparently, rambling about AI and financial markets for an hour is considered inspiring now. The media loved me. The boy genius who conquered Wall Street, they called me. The tech wizard who reinvented finance. My face was plastered on magazine covers. My quotes were splashed across financial websites. And, well, let's just say my social media following exploded. I even hired a social media manager to handle all the adoring fans and the occasional death threat from disgruntled hedge fund managers. But it wasn't all champagne wishes and caviar dreams. The pressure was intense. The responsibility was immense. And the loneliness was sometimes overwhelming. "You've changed, Ethan," Ben said to me one day as we sat in my ridiculously oversized office, with a panoramic city view naturally, sipping ridiculously expensive whiskey. "Changed," I echoed, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. "How so?" "You're different," he said, his brow furrowed. "More distant, preoccupied. It's just a lot to handle, Ben," I sighed, leaning back in my ridiculously comfortable leather chair. "The company, the investors, the whole damn world expects me to perform miracles." "And you are performing miracles," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and concern. "But don't lose yourself in the process, Ethan. Don't forget who you are. Who was I? That was the question, wasn't it? Was I still Ethan, the guy who tinkered with gadgets in his cramped apartment, the guy who dreamed of changing the world? Or was I someone else? Someone new?" I looked out the window at the city sprawling beneath me, the lights twinkling like a million tiny stars. This was my world now, my empire, my legacy. And as I raised my glass, a silent toast to my success, my transformation, my new life. I couldn't help but wonder, was this what I really wanted? Was this enough? The answer, of course, was complicated. Because even with all the money, the power, the everything, there was still a part of me that missed the simplicity of those early days, the thrill of the struggle, the shared dream. But that was gone, replaced by something different, something bigger, something more complex. And as I took a sip of my whiskey, the smooth liquid burning a path down my throat, I knew that there was no going back. Ethan, the dreamer, was gone. In his place stood Ethan, the billionaire, and he was just getting started. Remember those designer shoes Vanessa was so obsessed with? Yeah, well, karma has a funny way of repossessing them. Turns out the company she ditched me for, Sterling Financial, wasn't quite as rock solid as she thought. Turns out, relying on outdated financial models and a whole lot of hubris isn't a sustainable business strategy. Who knew? I did. The collapse was spectacular. One minute, Sterling Financial was the darling of Wall Street. The next, they were Lehman Brothers 2.0. The news reports were brutal. "Financial scandal?" they screamed. "Mismanagement," they whispered. "Criminal negligence," they shouted. And then, the inevitable. Bankruptcy. I watched it all unfold from my ridiculously oversized office, a glass of ridiculously expensive champagne in my hand, a mixture of amusement and, a tiny bit of pity swirling within me. Vanessa's world, the world of designer handbags and penthouse apartments, was crumbling around her. The secure future she had craved was vanishing before her eyes. "Karma's a bitch, isn't it, Ben?" I said, taking a sip of my champagne. "Dude, that's cold," Ben said, though he couldn't quite suppress a grin. "Cold?" I chuckled. "I prefer the term poetic justice." But it wasn't just about Vanessa. It was about the larger picture. The collapse of Sterling Financial was a symptom of a larger problem, a problem that my AI, Athena, was designed to solve. The old ways of doing business, the outdated financial models, the greed. It was all coming crashing down. And in its place, a new era was dawning, an era of data-driven insights, of algorithmic accuracy, of my vision. The irony wasn't lost on me. Vanessa, who had scoffed at my dreams, who had dismissed my ambitions, who had chosen a secure future over me. She was now facing the consequences of her choices. The news reports painted a grim picture. Vanessa, once the picture of polished sophistication and effortless wealth, was now, well, she was just Vanessa, jobless, penniless, and probably regretting her life choices. "Remember those designer shoes, Ben?" I said, clicking on an article about the Sterling financial bankruptcy. "Yeah, I'm guessing they're not looking so stylish now." "Dude, seriously," Ben said, shaking his head. "You need to let this go." "Let it go?" I echoed. "Ben, this isn't about letting it go. This is about vindication. This is about proving a point." And the point was, well, the point was that I was right. My vision, my dreams, my obsession, it had all paid off. While Vanessa was chasing superficial success, I was building something real, something lasting, something revolutionary. Then I saw it, a small, almost insignificant news item tucked away at the bottom of a financial website. "Former Sterling financial executive joins O'Connell Analytics." My eyebrows shot up. "Ben," I said, my voice laced with disbelief, "you're not going to believe this." "What is it?" he asked, looking at me with a mixture of apprehension and amusement. "Vanessa," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "She's working for me." Ben stared at me, his mouth agape. "No way," he breathed. "Way," I said, grabbing my phone. "Looks like someone's desperate for a job, and who better to work for than the guy she used to laugh at?" "Dude, this is insane," Ben said, shaking his head. "Insanely satisfying," I corrected. And as I sat there, staring at the news item, the irony of the situation washing over me, I knew that this was just the beginning. Vanessa's presence in my company, in my world, in my empire. It was a stark reminder of my past, a testament to my success, and, well, a constant source of amusement. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about opportunity. An opportunity to show her and the world just how far I'd come, just how much I'd achieved, just how successful I had become. And as I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face, I knew that this was going to be interesting. The first time Vanessa walked into my office, I almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the designer-clad, perfectly coiffed woman who had once graced my apartment. In her place stood a nervous, slightly frumpy figure in a cheap pantsuit, her eyes wide with a mixture of apprehension and... was that shame? "Mr. O'Connell," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm Vanessa, your new assistant." I leaned back in my ridiculously oversized chair, my expression carefully neutral, though I was inwardly relishing the moment. "Vanessa," I said, my voice smooth, devoid of any recognition. "Yes, of course. Take a seat." She perched on the edge of the chair, her posture stiff, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The awkward silence stretched between us, punctuated only by the gentle hum of the city outside my panoramic window. "So," I said finally, breaking the silence, "you'll be handling my schedule, correspondence, and, well, whatever else needs handling." "Of course, Mr. O'Connell," she said, her voice barely audible. I watched her as she fumbled with her notepad, her fingers trembling slightly. The once confident, self-assured Vanessa was gone, replaced by a shadow of her former self. The irony was delicious. The first few weeks were interesting. Vanessa, once so quick to criticize my delusional fantasies, was now forced to witness my success firsthand. She saw the constant stream of important visitors, the high-stakes meetings, the empire I had built. "Mr. O'Connell," she'd say, her voice carefully professional, "Mr. Sterling is on line 1. He says it's urgent." "Tell him I'll call him back," I'd say casually, dismissing the man who used to be her boss, who had once been her ticket to a secure future. The humiliation was subtle but constant. She was forced to fetch my coffee. Black, no sugar, just the way I liked it. Schedule my meetings with people who actually mattered, and, well, basically cater to my every whim. The woman who had once scoffed at my ambitions was now at my beck and call. "Vanessa," I'd say, my voice deliberately impersonal, "could you please reorganize my sock drawer, alphabetically, by color?" Okay, maybe I was being a bit petty, but hey, a guy's gotta have some fun, right? She'd do it, of course, with a tight smile and a barely concealed resentment in her eyes. But she'd do it, because she needed the job, because she had no other choice. The office gossip was entertaining. Whispers followed her down the hallways. "That's Vanessa," they'd say. The one who dumped Ethan before he made it big. The pitying glances, the barely concealed snickers. It was all a stark reminder of her fall from grace. And me? I played the role of the oblivious boss to perfection. I ignored her, bypassed her, treated her as just another cog in the machine I had built. The man she had once dismissed was now the man she couldn't ignore, the man she had to serve. "Vanessa," I'd say in a meeting, my eyes deliberately avoiding hers, "could you please take notes on this and make sure to highlight the important parts?" The important parts, of course, were the parts that showcased my genius, my vision, my triumph. The triumph over the doubts, the rejections, the Vanessas. And as I watched her scribbling furiously in her notepad, her face pale, her eyes downcast, I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about balance. This was about the universe restoring order, about karma doing its thing. But even as I reveled in my victory, a flicker of something else stirred within me. Pity? Perhaps. But it was a fleeting pity, quickly overshadowed by the overwhelming sense of triumph. Because in the end, Vanessa had made her choice. She had chosen the world of superficial success, of fleeting pleasures. She was paying the price. And me? I had chosen my own path. A path of hard work, of dedication, of obsession. And it had led me to this, to the top, to the empire. And as I looked at Vanessa, her figure small and insignificant in my grand office, I knew that this was just the beginning. The real game, the game of power, of control, of vindication, was just getting started. Vanessa's presence in the office was like a persistent, low-grade hum. Always there, always noticeable, but never quite demanding full attention. I made sure of it. She tried, bless her soul, little things at first. A slightly longer pause when handing me my coffee. A hopeful inflection in her voice when announcing a caller. A subtle lingering by my desk after delivering a message. Each attempt was a tiny, desperate plea for recognition, for acknowledgement, for something. I gave her nothing. "Mr. O'Connell," she'd say, her voice carefully modulated. "Your 2 o'clock meeting with the board is ready." "Thank you, Vanessa," I'd reply, my eyes fixed on my computer screen, my tone deliberately flat, impersonal. Just another employee, another cog in the machine. She tried other tactics. A new hairstyle? A desperate attempt to recapture her former glamour? A subtly suggestive outfit? A tactic that had worked in the past, though I now found it pathetic. Even a strategically placed accidental touch on my arm, which I brushed off with a practiced indifference. Nothing. The office whispers intensified. "He's completely ignoring her," they'd say, "pretending she doesn't exist." "Serves her right," some would add, a touch of schadenfreude in their voices. I overheard her one day talking to a colleague in the break room. "He doesn't even look at me," she was saying, her voice laced with a bitterness I found strangely satisfying. "It's like I'm invisible." Exactly. The more she tried, the more I ignored her. The more desperate she became, the more I relished my power. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about control, about dominance, about showing her and the world that Ethan O'Connell, the guy she had dismissed, the guy she had left behind, was now the one in control. And as I watched her, her shoulders slumped, her eyes downcast, her spirit slowly crumbling under the weight of my indifference, I knew that I was winning. This was my game now. And she was just a pawn. The tension had been building for weeks, a silent, unspoken battle waged in the sterile confines of my office. Vanessa's attempts to gain my attention had become more desperate, her presence more persistent, her desperation almost palpable. I knew it was coming. The inevitable confrontation, the final act. It happened after a particularly grueling board meeting. I had just finished outlining our expansion plans, detailing our latest AI-driven financial product, basking in the glow of admiration and envy. As the room emptied, Vanessa lingered, her figure silhouetted against the closing door. "Mr. O'Connell," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "can I have a word?" I turned, my expression carefully neutral, though I knew what this was about. "Vanessa," I said, my tone cool, impersonal. "Is there something I can help you with?" She hesitated, her eyes searching mine, a flicker of hope in their depths. "It's about us," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I sighed, a sound of feigned weariness. "Vanessa, I'm not sure what you mean. We have a strictly professional relationship. But before," she stammered, her cheeks flushed. "Before, we were something." "Before," I echoed, my voice flat, emotionless. "Before you left me for someone you thought was a better investment?" Her face paled. "Ethan, I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I was blind. I didn't see your potential. I didn't appreciate." "Appreciate what, Vanessa?" I interrupted, my voice laced with a coldness that made her flinch. "My delusional fantasies? My dead-end dreams? My lack of financial stability?" She looked down, her shoulders slumping. "I was wrong," she whispered. "So wrong. I see that now. You were right about everything." "Right about what, Vanessa?" I pressed, enjoying her discomfort, her humiliation. "Right about the future? Right about the success? Right about me?" "Yes," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You were right, and I want a second chance." I stared at her, my expression unchanging, my heart unmoved. A second chance? After she had dismissed me, belittled me, left me for someone she deemed more profitable? The irony was almost too much to bear. "A second chance?" I echoed, a humorless laugh escaping my lips. "Vanessa, you had your chance. You made your choice. You chose him. You chose security. You chose what you thought was best for you. But I was wrong," she pleaded, her eyes filled with tears. "I see that now. You're everything I ever wanted. Everything I should have had." "Should have had?" I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Vanessa, you don't should have anything. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it." "But Ethan, please," she begged, her voice cracking. I need you. I love you." The words hung in the air, hollow, meaningless. Love? She loved me? Or did she love my money, my power, my success? It was hard to tell, and frankly, I didn't care. "Love," I scoffed. "Vanessa, you don't know the meaning of the word. You loved the idea of me, the idea of my potential. But you didn't love me. You loved what you thought I could become, and now that I have become it. You want a piece of the pie?" She didn't answer, her face a mask of misery and regret. I stood up, my gaze fixed on her, my expression cold, final. "Vanessa," I said, my voice low, deliberate, each word cutting through the silence like a shard of ice. "I don't waste time on bad investments." And with that, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, alone, defeated, her dreams shattered, her hopes crushed, her regret complete. As I walked out of the office, the door closing behind me, I felt a surge of triumph. Not just over Vanessa, but over my past, over my doubts, over everything. I had proven her wrong. I had achieved my dreams. I had become the man she had once dismissed, the man she now craved. And in doing so, I had finally won. The transformation was complete. Ethan, the dreamer, the rejected, the underestimated, was gone. In his place stood Ethan O'Connell, the billionaire, the tech mogul, the victor. And as I stepped into the elevator, the doors closing behind me, I knew that I had finally let go. The past was behind me. The future was mine.